I will tell you that the member that is about to come up has been with us for quite some time. I won't get into all of her details. She's about to cover it all with this slide. But Kylie has got numerous properties that she has put together after moving here from New Zealand. And she is also now in the process of selling a lot of this and updating her portfolio. We're going to talk about one of those tonight. I think it's one of the earlier on ones that she did, not one of the larger ones. She's done one that's, I think it was 550 units that she just sold. But maybe we'll get into that one as well. Kylie, why don't you come up and join me so we can get started here?
Sure. All right, here I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'll let you take over and go through the background, and I'll supplement where I can.
Perfect. So I'm originally from New Zealand, as you could probably tell from the accent. I've also lived in Australia, and then in 2011 I moved to Houston, and I was basically a veterinary surgeon in New Zealand, so I had a medical background, and I worked in emergency medicine and critical care, and then I actually worked for myself. And I realized at that moment that I actually preferred working for myself more than actually being a veterinary surgeon. So it was an interesting moment. And so I was really looking for something to sink my teeth into business-wise when I got to Houston, and it just happened to come across through a friend, Lifestyles. And so I went along to their case study, just like you're doing. And there was a lady called Sue there who was a medical receptionist. And I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. And she had a little 56 unit. So I signed up as an FFP member, and then I started just attending everything and going to everything. So that's basically how I got started. And so, yeah, so basically I have two wonderful children, Will, who's 12, Charlotte, who's 9. And yeah, it was 2013 when I became a Lifestyles member. I started with a little 17 unit and a 42 unit. So I started off pretty small, but I did jump straight to multifamily rather than doing single family. I did my independent rental owner certification and my certified apartment manager certification. So I did some things, but the Lifestyles training is just fantastic. And so I just basically went to everything. I asked so many questions. John Ridgway, who was my mentor back then, he affectionately calls me his stalker because I just asked so many questions and just was always on the phone to him about everything. So yeah, so basically in that time span between 2013 to basically July 2016, I ended up purchasing 7 properties in total. That's just under 1,200 units. So that was in 3.5 years. And I also became a passive investor in just under 800 units.
So I wanted to add, you mentioned your 17 unit, which I think was your first deal. It's kind of in Pasadena. She sold that deal to somebody, also a Lifestyles member. And now, about 2 weeks ago, I was actually mentoring somebody who's looking at buying that. So we're trading the same property amongst ourselves now and actually you bought it from a member too, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And yeah, we actually made, there was one other person invested with me in that deal, and we made 255% profit on that little deal.
And it's hard to believe, folks, that somebody new comes along and they can make money after one of our tremendous members who's won all sorts of awards, has already made 255% or whatever she just said. But it happens because the next person comes along, they have a few different ideas, they inject a little more money in it. Rent goes up every year no matter what, and it just snowballs, and we pass these things around sometimes. I'm looking at not the property that I mentioned earlier that I'm in the process of selling, but I have another property that I have a member that has come to me and wants to buy it from me, and we're actually entertaining that now. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. So it's kind of crazy how we do that. Anyway, yeah. Continue on. Next slide.
So yeah, so basically I joined Lifestyles Unlimited because I actually wanted to sail on my boat and sail around the world, and you need money to do that, right? To buy the boat and to go sail and that sort of thing. So financial freedom and basically having control of my own time and how I spent my time and not being told what to do each day was really important. And basically, what I've grown to really love is the team that we've built, and being able to like train that team and to show up at the property and just it's been really wonderful to see the impact we can actually make through this, right? Like during the the COVID pandemic, we actually fed 50,000 meals across our properties. We had multiple food trucks. We helped hundreds of people get rental assistance, started a Spanish language program so people that had no tech skills could could basically earn an income from home. And yeah, it was, you know, and it was really, really amazing to just see that impact. So that brings me a lot of joy, being able to actually have impact and make a difference for so many people. I also get to be part of this amazing network, like the TNL group called the Next Level, and basically network with people that love talking real estate. Like I talk real estate and love, you know, exchanging ideas, and being able to learn from that group of people is just amazing. So I love being part of this.
So, and that's exactly, I think, you know, for the education and the training and all of that that goes with lifestyles, that's all fantastic and that's all a great foundation. But I think possibly the most important and most valuable part is the networking in the group. So for the people that aren't familiar with what we do, she mentioned the Next Level. Prior to this case study starting, there was, and I didn't see how many people showed up for the Zoom call today, but usually there's 50 or so people that show up for these meetings. We met from 4 to 5:30 and we shared ideas, we shared vendors. We had somebody from the Texas Apartment Association that fed us information about what's going on in the state and national legislature that we need to be a part of, and you know how it affects us. The president of the Houston Apartment Association is one of our members right now, the president for this year. So that network cannot be oversold. None of us would be where we are without that piece to this puzzle.
Yeah, and I just want to. I want to bring up really quick for the people that are new and don't understand how powerful that is. If you own the Sunoco station here and the guy across the street owned an Exxon, do you think they share information? But here, Scott can ask Kylie, you know, what software are you using on your property? Oh, you're using Resman. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's good about it? What's bad? They will share. What are you paying your maintenance man per hour? They are willing to open up all their books to each other. And that's one of the huge things of what that means. And that's what that mastermind group, and we have these going on in every city. There's one in Dallas every month. There's one in Houston every month. There's a national one. So it's going on everywhere. I know people from all across America are tuning in, but we have these multiple places with all these. What's your level of success if all these millionaires are willing to share what they've done, and there's nothing you could bring up at that meeting that they can't solve?
And then on top of that, that's for the experienced people. We also have something called the Aspiring Lead group. And this is for people who haven't done a single deal, but they want to get the same kind of guidance that we have in this meeting with the experienced people. And we have a whole separate meeting for those people as an additional educational layer on top of what Lifestyles puts out there on the portal and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's basically having the right roadmap, I think, to be able to go forward without making massive mistakes, and being able to like reach out. And anytime you have a problem, you know someone else has already had it and they can tell you exactly what to do. So that's really helpful. And I think if I didn't have Lifestyles, I'd probably still just have 2 single-family homes at this point. So I'm very thankful.
Experience doesn't mean I'm smarter than you. It means I've already made the mistake and I'll tell you how not to do it.
Yeah.
All right, Carrie.
So this is my portfolio. So as I said, I started with Sycamore Palms, which was a little 17 unit in Pasadena. We sold that for 255% profit. Rio Sereno, so that was 42 units also in Pasadena. That one sold after 18 months for 100% profit. So that was about 67% annualized return, which was really awesome. Springbrook Lofts, so this is the one that we're talking about today, just sold for 230% return profit net to investors after we do our final distribution. Woods of Spring Grove, actually have that one for sale right now. I have an offer on that one, and also Campbell Grove. Grove at Seabrook, it's La Mason at Lake Cove. That one also sold. That one sold for 40% profit. And Waterford Grove, 552 units. That one just sold. That was a monster, and that did 73% profit. So yeah, and the earlier ones definitely had slightly better profit. They were a little smaller. The later ones, you know, a little bit less, but still really, really good annualized returns. So going into Springbrook Lofts, so this was 104 units. It was built in 1972. It's in Spring Branch in Texas. And it was purchased for $3.692 million. Cash out of pocket was 1.45 million. This was like a crazy deal because you'd just about never get seller financing, and this one was a seller financing deal. And I love telling this. There was no banks, no big hoops to jump through with finance. And I love telling this story because I usually you have a net worth equivalent to the loan amount, and the seller never asked for my personal financial statement. The broker was like, she's good for it. And I was just so I guaranteed this loan on this. And of course we made our payments, and I was really careful about setting up escrow accounts and making sure I did the right thing with the seller. But it really was just a game changer for me, this deal. So the
did you have a lawyer, or did you just shake hands on this?
I know. Yeah, it was so good.
Right.
So capital repairs were 360,000. So and we'll go into that a little bit when I show you the before and afters. And then the refinancing. So I actually paid the seller back. He actually wanted to keep financing it, but he just couldn't give us the cash out refi that we were after. So we cashed out about 100% back to investors. So they basically got all their original money back, and they were still invested in it. And that loan was for 4.5 million, and it was a lower interest rate that I'd been paying the seller. And then we sold in 2021.
So let me just highlight what you said there. In 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, you fixed it up, you made it pretty, you do a great job on your rehabs, you win all sorts of awards for them, and you gave them 100% of their money back in 2 years. 50% return 2 years in a row, basically.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Continue.
Oh, hold on, Scott.
Oh.
What do I always ask on this slide? Because people just heard 1.4 million and they have 50 grand or 75 or, they don't have 1.4 million. Can you cover that so they understand?
So let's talk about how many investors you had in this.
Yeah, so I think it was 10 or 12 investors I had in this.
Okay, so average investor was maybe $100,000. What do you think was the lowest investor on this one?
So I had somebody at 50,000 on this, and I had somebody that put in like 200,000 or 250. So I had someone that was $50,000.
So understand, if you want to be an investor in the multifamily properties, we have a wide range of properties that you can invest in, and we have deals now. I have deals where I have $25,000 investors, and I know some others out there. I've heard as low as 10,000. I think that they've taken into some deals. So there's a place for everybody in here. You just got to get into lifestyles. You've got to get to some of the live events. We now have a portal called Podium where you can do all of this connecting and networking online and find out which deal is most appropriate for you. David, you have something to add?
Yeah, there's one other thing. There's people from all walks of life. Sometimes in the outside world, you hear you have to be a millionaire and a credit investor. That is not true. You just have to be sophisticated. We'll talk about that during the seminar, but you don't have to be living in Houston, Texas to invest in these deals. We have people from all across America. Kylie, in your deals, could you share some of the places that people are from that are invested? I mean, it doesn't have to be just this deal, but I just want them to understand the plethora of people you have from all over, all walks of life, maybe a doctor here, a nurse here. Could you explain some of the areas?
So just about every single investor in this deal actually lives in California and has never seen the property, which is really funny. But yeah, I have investors from Florida. I have investors just from so many different states. I've even got a couple of investors that were actually overseas, but they were in Texas at the time and then they moved overseas. So yeah, I have investors from many states that are invested across the deals.
Right, so, and I wanted people to understand. Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, we're talking about states all over the place, but obviously we're in Texas, so we have numerous members that are bringing money from Mexico here. But I will tell you that I have also talked to members from Guam who are investing in lifestyles here. So I think that's as far as I can go, but actually I guess New Zealand would probably be further than Guam. So.
Yeah, it would be. Actually, funny story, I actually offered my parents when I started buying real estate to invest in this, and then like my mum was like, no, my buddy's safely in the bank, and my dad was like, no, my buddy's invested and it's earning 4% or something like that. And then I started building through real estate, and then I bought my boat, and I called my dad up from my boat. I think I was anchored in Galveston Bay, and I was like, guess where I'm calling from? And he goes, where? And I'm like, my boat. And I put him on video and showed him, and I told him what the boat was, and he's like, a Beneteau 49? And he said, tell me about that real estate again.
Beneteau 49 is no joke. I grew up on a
I
Beneteau
always,
28.
yeah, and I always say if people doubt you, all you do is you beat them with your wallet, and it shuts them up pretty quick. So it's for all the skeptics out there. Just think about it. If you could double your money, how much of a life changing thing? But it's not just Kylie. It's all these people from all walks of life investing in it. They're making great rates of return. Kylie's the one in charge. She's making all the decisions how to run this, but you still have ownership in that deal, and you get tax benefits in that deal. Just so you understand, we'll cover that more in the seminar, but think of doubling your money. I mean, that's just a huge life-changing thing for all those folks from all different places across America. And we have members like Kylie doing in other places, other states as well. It's not just Houston only. I know this is a Houston case study, but I just want people to know we have people doing stuff in Kentucky. We have people stuff doing in Oklahoma. So it's folks like Kylie are doing this everywhere. Just so you know, if you get involved with the group, there are these opportunities out there. That's all. I just want to make sure they knew that.
David, she did it in 2 years.
That's right. Deuces. Yeah, and not only is she a Kiwi, but she's also an Aussie, and she also worked on like koala bears and stuff, different marsupials.
Absolutely, and bats.
And she told me this story about, I don't know what it was, what bit a guy's hand. What was that the one time?
Oh, it was a little green tree snake, and yeah, and it came in on the finger of my vet nurse's husband, and it had bitten, like he'd tried to save it from the cat, and then it had latched onto him instead, and it had sort of died with its teeth like latched in. So yeah, I had to rescue his finger.
I just wanted to include blood, guts, and gore in our case study because that is a first. Okay, that was pretty cool. Okay.
The one other point I'd make too is that I know what it's like to get started. So I always make sure in each of my deals that I do take some people like at lower amounts because everybody has to start somewhere. And I certainly started with not a lot of money. So yeah, I try and do that because I like making a difference for people. And in fact, another super quick cool story. When I sold this Waterford, the large property, I had a lady come to pick up the check at one of my other properties. And she put her hand on my arm and she was like, when my husband died, I got all his insurance money. And she said, it was my first multifamily deal and I put it all with you. And I was like, ooh, I was lucky it turned out so well. But basically she nearly doubled her money and she was just like so thankful. And I was just like, wow, this is great. Like I get to make a real difference for people. And she's like, now I'm going to go out and do it again.
I'm glad she told you that when it was done and not in the beginning.
I know. I was like, woo. It was a pretty tough year. Like, 2020, just like the properties did fine, but there was a lot of work and a lot of helping people out, with meals and assistance and stuff. So it all worked out well in the end, but gosh.
All right, let's see some impressive pictures here.
Okay, awesome. So this property had been bought actually by the seller out of foreclosure, so it was pretty run down. So we put like a new boiler in because there had been a lot of times where the residents hadn't been getting reliable hot water and the gas, bill was really high. So putting in a new boiler, like it paid itself off within 3 years. Because it reduced our gas bill so much. The pool area needed a real revamp. So you can see we redid the pool deck. We put in these beautiful wooden pergolas, like overlooking, like cantilevering over the pool. And yeah, just really cleaned up the whole area. And you can see on the sign here, put in a nice new sign. The old sign had sort of graffiti on it. It just looked pretty run down. So did a lot of new landscaping. Designed, I'd actually love the design part. So like I got to design like the sign and really clean it up. And then this was the leasing office. One of the main reasons I think why people weren't leasing is because they had this trash can that was like permanently outside the leasing office. And if you have a look at the two doors there on the left, there's the white door on the left and there's like a burgundy door on the right. And a tenant or a resident actually lived in the burgundy door to the right, and his little chair there, he would often sit outside smoking there. So anybody going to lease at the property had to go past him, and you couldn't really figure out which door was the office to get into. So what we did is, like, if you actually see the big solar screens, the burgundy solar screen on the left, we actually basically changed that completely and put 2 double doors in where that solar screen was, and we built a little fence to shield this resident from the leasing office to give him some privacy. And I got a variance application and basically put in this beautiful pergola, and redid the front of the office and did the landscaping and put this fencing in. So there were a lot of different things that got done to really spruce up the office.
Wow, what a change. I mean, I guess you moved his chair and his garbage can around the corner there, so it's out of the second picture.
We did. I was horrified at the garbage can. And then this is looking like in the office. So the first picture is looking back towards the windows. So it really was just an apartment they decided to make the office. So you can actually see with the ladies just walking in there, those are where the two doors went in. And then if we spin 180 degrees, we're looking back basically at the office. So we put in this little business center, we have the leasing office, and we had the upstairs area as well, which is actually what we used as a bit of a conference room, and I had a little office there when I first got started. So you can see like we redid the flooring, we changed the lighting, and just really redid the office, and it just came out so well. And these were the interiors. So on the left, it just looked kind of a little rundown and tired. So they had these white appliances that had sort of gotten quite yellow, and the cupboard doors were just a little sort of rough and everything. And it just looked a bit tired and a bit dingy. So came in with this beautiful metallic backsplash that just like really made the unit pop. Came in with like the resurfacing that was like a granite sort of look on the resurfacing, and brushed nickel knobs, brushed nickel ceiling fans, black appliances, and yeah, it really tidied up the units. And it was like this white high gloss paint before, which did clean easily, but just looked really cheap and tacky. And so we came in with a much nicer color and an eggshell sort of paint, which was easy to clean still, but didn't look like you've just brushed it off. So cash flow, so the cash flow and cash on cash projections. So initially the property cash flowed 10% to investors annually, and it was one of these crazy things. The seller was getting $565 rents. It was all one bedroom apartments. And then I came downstairs once, I heard my leasing agent say, that'll be $790. And I came downstairs and I said, did you just lease an apartment? This was like about 5 months in. And I was like, did you just lease an apartment for $790? And she had this big smile on her face and she's like, yep. And I was like, wow. So like the rents went up more than $200 because we just did such a good job at like just improving the product and taking care of people, So the property did cash flow very well to investors. Then after we did the refinance, it gave investors back all their money, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we were still cash flowing 6.2% in the last year, and that was including the whole COVID times, where it was definitely a bit tougher as people sort of lost jobs and things, but we still cash flowed really, really well. So this gives you like the total money and out of pocket. So the income on the last T12 was just over $1 million. Expenses were $457,000. NOI, which is the difference between those two, was $563,000. So the value of the property was worth about 8.6, 8.7 and a 6.5 cap. We purchased it for $3.692 million in 2014 with a $1.45 million out of pocket with the sort of 12 investors. And then we just sold it like about 2 weeks ago for a 230% profit net to investors with final distribution. And I'll give you the sales price, except I signed a confidentiality agreement, so I can give you the net to investors though.
All right. So, David, I can't wait until a couple of weeks from now when we're back in the office and we get the cheers and the applause and the standing ovation when this slide comes up. I really missed that part of the case study.
Yeah.
You were off by 2 weeks, Kylie. We'll have you back on another.
I was.
Yes, yeah, we're going live. We're going live. The next one will be live. So maybe, well, Kylie's not even in America. She's somewhere else. So.
That's true. She wouldn't be here tonight otherwise. Okay.
That's right.
There we go. So this was a wonderful investment, and it was funny because you know how David, you were saying that investors do get a vote. We actually form a limited liability company, and all the investors have a voting interest in that and a sharing ratio in it. So in order to sell the property, we actually have to get a vote from investors, and we need a certain amount, like 70%, 67%, to actually, make the sale. So we have an online meeting. We made, all the discussion, and I definitely had a couple of people that were really enjoying their cash flow, and they did not want to sell. So it was an interesting one, but yeah, in the end, I did feel it was time to sell this property.
I had the same thing on my one that I'm selling now, Kylie. I had a couple of people that said, "Where are we going to get this cash flow from?" And I was like, "I don't know. We'll go find another one." There's always that.
Yeah,
Yep.
but there was just so much equity in the deal at that point that I was like, do we do another refinance? Like, we can't really do another refinance. So it's like, what do we do at this point, right? Like, I would rather give everybody, massive returns, and then we can go and do another deal too.
Yeah, and sometimes the members don't understand prepayment penalties. They don't understand the fact that depreciation runs out, or we use accelerated depreciation. Sometimes you have to really map that out. And that, for you new people here or whatever, you're going to learn these things. We're going to teach you these things in classes. There are reasons we sell at certain things. Your lead knows what they're doing, but you have control. You still get voting rights. So it's not like a mutual fund where you have no control. You actually have control of your money. So that's very powerful lifestyles. And we have rules.
Yeah.
It's not like the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, they send up a general partner, and the general partner decides everything. They just take your money. In this case, it's not a lot of deals where the lead partner, who's doing all the operating and the working for you, actually controls the deal. I mean, we don't make the decisions. We present the opportunities, and everybody votes on it. So
absolutely. Yeah, and investors get financials every month, and we have an annual partner meeting where we talk about the performance of the property and kind of do a bit of a forecast for the next year. So it's kind of fun to be a part of an investment.
Awesome.
So awards, this was like really amazing because I was the first lifestyle investor to win a National Property of the Year award, and then since then everybody wins it every year now. So it's funny, but this property did have some issues with crime and things, and so because we were able to so effectively clean up the crime and just get a higher level of a person in there who was going to pay their rent and be a good citizen at the property, we ended up basically winning this award, and we were getting amazing returns as well, and the before and after pictures, and we were part of the Spring Branch kind of community. The Spring Branch Management District has meetings as well, so we were very involved in the community, and so I was very, very honored to win this award. And then we also won the Houston Apartment Association Property of the Year award that same year as well, with Springbrook Lofts. The following year, Woods of Spring Grove won the Houston Apartment Association Property of the Year awards, and then the following year, Campbell Grove, which is another one of my properties, won Houston Property of the Year for its category. So it's been a good run.
You threw out a fact there that I have a hard time believing. This was the first National Property of the Year that we had in Lifestyles?
Yep. I was the one that did that, and I just applied for it because I was doing third-party management, so I didn't apply for the independent rental owner, which everybody else wins. And I was like, let me apply for property, and so I was the first one to win it. And then I think John Boriak won it, and then he's won it 2 or 3 times now, and yeah.
So that's where I was going to go. We win so many of these things that I can't believe we didn't win one until 2016, because we have the Owner of the Year, Independent Owner of the Year, every year since 2006. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm assuming we're going to win it this year. So for 15 years in a row, we've won that award. And I can't believe it took us this long to do the Property of the Year, because we win them locally and at Texas and all that. Maybe nobody ever filled out the application. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe I was just silly enough to just go, you know what, let me just fill this out, right? But that's the thing about Lifestyles, is everybody, it's like this, almost like this hive mentality. Once somebody discovers something good and they share it, everyone's like, oh, so once I won it once, now we win it every year.
Yeah. Okay. That's great.
And folks, just so you understand about these awards, these are not Lifestyles things. This is an independent group. It's the Apartment Association. And I always say, when we go up to the national level, when they go for this IRO award, there's 40,000 different people that go for it. And Lifestyles has different members winning these awards every single year. And to me, that's a testament to the mentorship and this open-mindedness, this abundance mentality of the entire group. It would be like the coach of the Spurs firing the entire team and hiring high school kids to play that never played before, because we're going against people in the industry 20 and 30 years, and Kylie wasn't in real estate her whole life, but yet because she does best product, best price, serviced by the best people, she takes care of her people. This is how we win these awards every single year. I mean, it's a huge thing if you actually understand the dynamics behind it. It's not just about profitability. It's, are we taking care of our residents? Are we, enriching their lives and giving back to the community? It's a huge thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what really I've discovered just brings me so much, pleasure is really helping people. Like, well, I have so many stories, but I had the Spanish language program I was telling you about that I set up, and I actually took Spanish lessons through the pandemic. And eventually my teacher, who was a resident at Waterford Grove, figured out who I was. And when we finished the last lesson, she said to me, she goes, when COVID hit, she said, I asked God for help and he sent me you. And I was in tears and she was crying, and I was just like, I was like, wow, to have made such a difference to somebody who wasn't getting government assistance. And I was like, wow, like that's really amazing. And it basically, that income literally allowed her to keep her apartment and get through the COVID pandemic. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great story.
Very good. So so I achieved this basically. I educated myself. As I said, I was like affectionately known as John Ridgway's stalker, and I surrounded myself with successful people, and I asked so many questions. So I really used my network, but also I really helped my network too. Like I love like helping people when they come in. I feel like I've got a really good handle on operations as well, and how to really turn properties around. That's like my forte. I always say hire strong and pay well. Like your team members are absolutely critical to your success. So being able to train them, it's like, there was one point I went in and I was like, our residents are our customers and they're the ones paying everybody. And it's like, our slogan is we create warm communities and we care for our residents like family. And I really drummed that into the team. I got signs made that went in the office, and I spoke about that so many times. And then eventually we started getting Google reviews saying they really do that. They really care for you like family, like just as they say they do. So it was really like, that was one of the things that I really, it's really important to have a team with the right mindset that really do take care of your customer. Buy as big as you can. 255% profit on a little 17 unit is great, but it's even better if it was like on a larger property. And there's just so many economies of scale on that one. Boiling rehab numbers down to, do I do this? Do I replace the boiler? Do I do this? Like I said, with the boiler, just by changing out the boiler, I was able to pay the cost of that back in 3 years by reducing the gas bill, right? So that was basically a 30% cash on cash return on that boiler replacement. So I love boiling things down to the numbers, because then you can make really smart decisions then. And develop strong relationships with all your team members. As I said, that's such an important thing. And like, I've been doing weekly Zoom meetings with my team, like a weekly training and a weekly strategy meeting for like the last 92 weeks, I think it is. It's like been a lot, but it's really been amazing. And to, as I'm sort of selling properties, it's a little sad to see them moving on. But I've seen, one of our people is a marketing director. She's going on to be a regional manager, and she started off as a leasing agent. So it's been really good to see that. So buy and hold. How does it change my life? So I am a green card holder, a permanent resident now. So I'm very thankful for that. Financially free, which is wonderful. Like I don't need to go back and work for somebody else unless I chose to. So I really like that. And lifestyles, as I said, has just given me this ability to just have so much impact. We had 2.5, maybe 3,000 people living at the largest property, or definitely 3,000 people living across our communities in 2020. And just to be able to make such an impact there was really great. Helping investors become financially free. It's so rewarding to just hand those checks to them after a refinance or a sale. And just to have that, right, and to know that you've really helped, like the lady with her husband's insurance money. And then also to improve communities like Spring Branch. So my goals are short-term goals: build wealth, enjoy what I do, which I really do, and long-term goals are balance life with travel, spend lots of time with my beautiful children, and investing, help other people, and I'm very passionate about the environment and making a real change there. So there you go. And yeah, just thanking my team. Thank you, Dell, for the amazing roadmap. Curtis Haynes has been an incredible mentor for me. He's really brilliant on the acquisition side and lenders, so I go to him with a certain set of questions. John is amazing, sounding board for the operations, and he just has this huge wealth of knowledge. And he's been actually managing for the properties for like the last 3 years. So I'm very thankful for him as well, and the Celtic team. And then thank you to the TNL because they're just wonderful. It just having just this huge, vast depth of knowledge about everything. And my brokers, LMI, and of course the brokers that sell the deals. And there's so many people to thank, so many vendors. They were really amazing too. And that's my details.
All right. So, David, you want to come in? Who do we have feeding us questions from the audience? You got your mic.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I care about the environment too, Kylie. I bought 2 Teslas that are powered by coal burning power plants, just so you know.
That's not so good, but yeah.
I'm just being snarky, you know me. All right. Well, Haley, do you have some questions for us on the multifamily side?
This is Keith actually with you now.
Oh,
so
okay.
yes, we do have a couple of questions.
He identifies as being Haley.
Yeah, that's right. Most of the questions that started coming in are around Kylie's next deal or what her next plans are now that she's doing all this selling off.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I'm actually just going to take a little bit of time to just, like, the last year or two have been very intense for me. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and just really enjoy life. I'm going to also start passively investing, and I'm actually going to, because my forte is these heavy lifts and these massive repositions, I'm going to wait till I see those opportunities and seek those opportunities out. For me, I like making big returns and doing big kind of lifts and turnarounds.
Kylie, I have a question also. How many investors did you say that you had at the property at Springbrook?
So Springbrook, I had about 12 investors on that deal.
Okay. I have a question about the seller financing piece. How did you get it, and why did you choose it over conventional?
So the seller was offering it. He had bought the deal out of foreclosure, and it was cash flowing really well, and he liked that income, right? He actually liked having that mailbox money coming in just on that 5.25% interest rate. So he offered it, and he said, look, this is what I'm doing. And I loved the idea because normally there's a lot of qualifications and loan documents and just, to go through to get a loan. So we were able to close really quite quickly on this. And also it meant that I could self-escrow things for taxes and insurance and that sort of thing without having a lender that I was always reporting to and sending financial statements off to. And they didn't do yearly inspections. He never came to look at the property. So it was just the easiest kind of deal to run. The lead investor or the syndicator, there is a lot of work we do with yearly insurance inspections and yearly lender inspections and just reporting to lenders and everything that the most passive investors don't have any idea about the amount of work that actually goes into that. So being able to get a seller finance deal just took a lot of work off, which was great.
And I will point out too, this was in 2014. That 5.25% interest looks absolutely ridiculous today. But if my mind serves me correct, considering this was a bank or bridge type loan, that was a pretty good rate back then. And as you said, it gave you full flexibility to flip that out to a non-recourse, probably Fannie Mae note that you had it on whenever you were ready to do it, and you did.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there was no prepayment penalty with him or anything like that. When I called him up, he was like, oh.
Well, when you bought this, was it already stabilized though? Was it in the 90% range or was it lower than that?
Yeah, no, it was actually 90% occupied. So it was good on the occupancy, but it had been hit with an abatement plan by the city because of the crime that had been on the property, and I think the seller just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Right. Okay. And he just was wonderful guy, just not really managing it very well. He didn't have lifestyles to teach him how to manage. So right. Yeah. So, I mean, his rents were they were sort of okay, but he could have been getting a lot more rent and, running it.
Well, you saw the before and after pictures of what she started with in a unit. She said it looked tired. I thought it looked like something else. but then what she did to it, and the rent went up, what'd you say, $175 5 months later? I mean,
Yeah,
there
it was
was
790 it went up to. So it was over $200.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, folks, if you're new, just look at that office. There's a guy sitting out there smoking cigarettes every day, and you walk by that in a trash can. I mean, that's your first impression of the property. So, I mean, that's just with these other people out there. And when Kylie saw that, she says, "Wow, smoking guy, opportunity." So that's what we
Yeah,
look at.
and I might say, like, the 4 or 5 months before we closed, that manager that was there, it was wonderful, and she really looked after the residents. She had that property at 100% pre-leased, like 99% occupied for the last 4 months before we closed. It was really
Right.
phenomenal. She had a wait list of people that were trying to get into the property.
Mm-hmm.
awesome. What else we got?
We do have another question that who had handled the management at the complex community apartment community. I know you think you'd mentioned that was third party.
Yeah, so to start with, I actually self-managed. So the little 17, the 42, the 104, and then I bought another 144, and I just was juggling too much. So I actually started outsourcing property management to one management company, and then I actually switched out to another one about 2 years ago as well. But in the end, I discovered that I think properties do best when they actually are managed in-house, or you keep close tabs and you push. So I've been very, very involved in the management, even though I do third party.
Yeah, folks, just because it's third party doesn't mean we're not getting our hands dirty. Doesn't mean we're telling them our way of them to run it, and then they have to adapt to what we teach them. We want to run our way, but they're doing them day to day.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, the buck stops with me, right? So if the property's not doing well, like, I could blame the third management company, I could blame the COVID situation, I could blame this or that. But in the end, the full responsibility for the investment rests with me. So it's never going to go down on my watch. So that's when I step in and I make sure it does, and that's why the lead investors are compensated for that.
Good.
That's most of them. I think this was on one of the slides. They're asking what the dollar amount was on that 230% profit on the deal. I think that was on one of those first slides. Do you remember what much it was?
So I know exactly what I sold it for, but because of the Harris County and tax increases, I actually can't disclose the sales price. But I did say it was worth 8.6 million.
I think what they're looking for is what was the total of the final distribution to the passives.
Oh, so the total, I get my little calculator out. So
Kylie, just do a round number. This is what I say. If the person invested 100K, how much would they walked away from? Round the number. It doesn't have to be perfect, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah. So 100, sorry, like the math. So they walked away. If they invested 100K, it would have been 330 because they got their 100K back. Then they also got the remainder of it. So some of that came as cash flow distributions that were done quarterly, every 2 months actually. Some of it, big chunk came at refinance, and then there were more cash flow distributions, and then there was a lump sum at sale, and there's a little bit left to go that will be distributed as we close the LLC.
And that's why everybody looks at returns differently. Is it 100% return? Is it 300% return? Because somebody goes, well, you got your money back plus how much on top of it. That's why I wanted her to explain it that way. If you put in 100K till you add everything together, you walked away with about 330. So that's just a round number to give you an idea.
Yeah.
That's 3 times your money if you look at it that way. Yeah. You didn't do that in the stock market, put it that way.
Yeah.
And she's all smiles. See, that's smiles like that.
Yeah.
And all investors are smiling too.
Yeah.
Can Kylie share the time spent during heavy lift and once it was rehabbed?
Yeah, so to start with, like, the heavy lift, like, I was on site all day, every day, just managing the rehab. We replaced the roofs, we replaced a bunch of the air conditioning units. Like, the office was a big one, the pool, like, we replastered the pool, we redid the boiler, we put fencing along the front, redid landscaping, like, redid the sign. So there was a lot, and I was on site a lot doing it myself, whereas passive investors were just kicking back at home doing their thing, right? And then once it was there, like, basically I probably spent, when I was self-managing, I probably spent, a couple of hours. Well, it sort of depends. Like, as it gets stabilized, it was probably less than an hour a day on the property, right? But yeah, and then when I like did third party management, I'm probably, you know, when it was truly third party management, I wasn't really involved. It was probably maybe 10 hours a month or whatever. Like I would visit the properties at least once a month and do financials and keep an eye on everything and run a meeting. But yeah, when you're actually driving and self-managing, it's obviously a lot more. So there's been a lot of time there.
Keep in mind that this was, I forget, a little over 100 units, and at one time she had 10 times that amount in her portfolio. So this was a small portion of her time. She was spending time on 550 units and other things that she had going on.
Yeah, the 550 units, definitely efficient, but yeah, it's a beast, that property, and it does take a bit of time to make sure everything's flowing as it should.
All right, are we done? We ready to wrap it?
Keith?
We ready to wrap up here? I see that they, okay, I see the slide, so I'm guessing we have no more questions.
All right. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for sharing it. And Scott, and I can't wait till we go live again. And I appreciate your time today. Now I'm going to stay, guys, about our membership. You see the discount code and everything. So I'm going to stay on. Yeah, there you go. Deuce for life.
See you in 2 weeks.
Hold up. Come on, go gangster, Kylie. Go for it.
See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
See you in 2 weeks. Go do it. It's one of the best, I mean, the best thing I ever did.